All right, everybody, welcome to Brighter. So we have recent news that Tesla's going to double its chips that they're buying for its DOJO computer. This is on top of them launching recently the NVIDIA H100 supercomputer, and this is on top of them launching the DOJO supercomputer just a couple months ago. We've got Jeff Lutz joining us. He's going to help us explain what's happening. Jeff is a supply chain executive. He's worked at a number of Fortune 100 companies, and he's now running his own consulting firm. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you joining me.
Great to be with you. Let's get into it.
All right. Well, before we get started, let's talk about the union. We know that they voted to go on strike on Friday, and then recently, they rejected a 21% pay increase that's offered by Stellantis, and they said it was a no-go. So this is Sean Fain, who's the president of the United Auto Workers, said he's unmoved by an offer of a 21% pay raise from Stellantis. So it's now entered the third full day. It's a definite no-go. Jeff, what do you think? What is it going to take for them to finally buckle down, and how long do you think this might take?
Yeah, I think what you don't hear a lot about in the media they go right to the wage conversation, and to me, there's a lot more going on than strictly wages. The unions are worried about this transition to EV and what is it going to mean for the amount of labor, and are these shops unionized? They're worried about tiers of employees. Basically, this is how the auto companies could work around, potential wage increases, is to increase the number of employees at lower tiers or temporary tiers of work. So there's a number of facets where they're pretty far apart, and all of those facets have some sort of economic bearing on the balance sheets of these companies and quite frankly in their future. And these companies are battling themselves of like they're not overly innovative, and they're not taking their cost structures down quick enough. And here you've got this event with this strike that's not only going to hurt their cost structure in the short term, but these wage increases over the long term, if they get into these higher numbers, are going to really damage their ability in the longer term. So if you take it quickly on the side of labor, a 20% pay increase sounds fantastic, but it's not 20% at once. It's 10%. And when you've had 18 to 20% inflation of minimum of goods, I mean, food, energy, everything's much higher than the 18 to 20%. When you've had that over the last 2 years, getting 10% doesn't even get you back above water for where you were a couple of years ago. So I can see, both sides of this. But my key takeaway is I think this is going to go on for a while. I think they're pretty farther apart than 21 versus 25% or 20%. I think they're farther apart across the whole gamut of issues than most think.
Yeah, I do think it's going to take a long time. Isn't it interesting, the contrast between the news? You got the big three automakers struggling with the union and dealing with the union. In the meantime, here's Tesla with news about improving their supercomputers. So people who still think Tesla is an automaker based on revenue, they're missing it. They're missing the the events that are happening right in front of their eyes. So let's take a look what the news is. This report came from China, reported by Tesla Chan. It said that Tesla plans to double orders of the DOJO supercomputers, the D1, from TSMC. And this is a new kind of chip made using the 7-nanometer process and Info SOW. I looked it up. Info is integrated fan-out system on wafer. You explain that to me. Advanced packaging. With 2024 orders seeing a 10,000 12-inch wafers, and 2025 orders to be even higher. They're really doubling down. Again, this is news of them doubling it up. This is the report from China. Then you tweeted this out. This chip packaging methodology is more advanced than the NVIDIA H100. So tell us about it. Better size, thermal, and performance. TSMC does both.
Yeah, so let's start with, again, I've been on both sides of this, being on the inside of these operations and as well now as following it and commenting on it. And when you see something that says media reports, sometimes they're very good. There's a lot of good sources, especially in Asia. But I would just take it all in context of Tesla told you where they're getting to, by the end of next year in terms of 100 exaflops. They're going to have to ramp, the D1 chip to get there. So I think you can say like, you can go with the headline of they're doubling orders, but if you put it up against what's happening in reality, they've told you what they're going to do. So I think it's likely that the report is true, regardless of the time frame. They're going to ramp the D1 chip up. Now let's talk quickly about the chip, which I commented on. So these are computers that essentially, TSMC. Remember, Nvidia doesn't build anything. People think like, can Nvidia ramp up more H100s and have a great quarter? Nvidia doesn't build anything. They're fabless, just like Tesla. Tesla builds all their vehicles and all of their energy solutions, but when it comes to silicon, Tesla has a design team, they have a software team, but they're fabless. When it comes time to fab at the wafer level and then package that wafer up, they go to a company like TSMC, they go to Samsung, or they go to a company like Global Foundries. Those are, three of the top fabs in the world. So let's talk about what TSMC is doing here. So on the H100, they're doing something called chip on wafer on substrate. And just let's get through the acronyms really quickly. That's what NVIDIA is shipping right now. And what Tesla's um, is going to, it's more evolution. I would say I call it revolutionary, but it's definitely an evolution off of chip on wafer on substrate, which is this integrated fan out system or system on wafer package. And basically, you're eliminating the need for this thick substrate that the H100 is on. That substrate can basically cause performance issues. It adds thickness to the stack up, and basically when you have all these signals going through this computer, you can have delays, you can have timing issues. You just have performance issues when you're working through that substrate. Whereas on this product, it's got this thing called an RDL, or a redistribution layer. It simplifies the process. It's thinner, and it gives you reduced height and better thermal performance, and really faster speeds as a result, with the better thermal performance and shorter interconnection length. So that's what you get with this integrated fan out system that Tesla is going to build the D1 on. So the takeaway is the D1 is going to be not only in performance, is it an advancement in the computer itself, but actually the way it's constructed and put together, it's going to allow them to maintain and improve that performance with the structure. So I think when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is great. Tesla's going one step ahead. They're not building what NVIDIA put into production a year ago. They're not doing that. They're leapfrogging.
Exactly. So whenever I hear this, tell me if I'm right here, Jeff, that, we've heard Elon say that the chips is the rate limiting step. The entire world is trying to buy as many as possible. I feel great when I hear this, right? This means that Tesla has secured a contract, and it might mean that there's less for others. Not that that matters so much. What really matters more is Tesla secures the contract so that they can really, like, it's crazy that you just said it. They have announced that they're going to 20x the current capacity for supercomputer by next year. And they must have already secured it, right? Before they can even say that they're going to do 20x. They showed that graph and it said 20x. Do you think that these kinds of contracts, it's likely? Because you've been in this space. You've made contracts with chip manufacturers.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah. And I don't want to go too far off in tangent with NVIDIA, but I bought from them before. Yeah. So in this situation, what Tesla had to do is basically put in something that's called a capacity reservation, which is a purchase order to a company like a TSMC that says, your fab, these lines, this amount of volume we need over this period of time. Here's a weekly or monthly volume. Here's our forecast. We want to put a purchase order in that reserves that capacity. And that's money. That's money that TSMC can take up front, or they can take it at the time of manufacture. But TSMC needs their fabs scheduled and reserved in advance. You can't just come in and like drop orders. That obviously everything's pretty constrained now from an industry perspective. I know you're seeing different things out there of like, oh, they didn't order as much equipment as they did in the last quarters, or they told supply. These are all rumors, and silicon works in cycles. But I can tell you that this area for AI and compute is there's going to be no issue with demand for a very long period of time. The other thing that you'll hear out there is that, oh, there's probably a lot of people out there double ordering. When you're on global allocation, meaning you've got a solution that you're distributing globally and you're really the only game in town, you can do something called take or pay contracts, which are, if you reserve that capacity, so the first step is a capacity reservation. The next step is an actual purchase order for the actual computers. If you do the capacity reservation and you don't take it, you lose the money. That's pretty well known. But they can do take or pay on the actual purchase order, meaning if you purchase, you know, 100,000 D1 chips, at whatever the price is, times 40,000 each. I'll just make up a number. But if you buy that many computers, and at that cost structure, there's a value on that purchase order. And a take or pay contract will be any percentage of that, if not the entire percentage of it, you would owe, even if you don't take that total quantity. So that's why it's called take or pay, meaning Nvidia gets paid. So my point is you're not going to get this double ordering phenomenon. If you've got to double your order for these computers, which are very expensive, and then you decide that you're not going to take it, you're going to be doing a double take or pay. You're going to have double the economics working against you. So you wouldn't do that. So I don't think there's a big issue of double ordering. But in quick summary, customers have to reserve capacity. That's what Tesla had to do. And then when they approach lead time, which whatever they agree to with that fab, then they actually have to go put the purchase order in for the D1s, which I believe they've already got open purchase orders now for product they're receiving this year.
Thank you, Jeff. This was great information. You've bought before from NVIDIA. You know this information. You've taught me some more coin terms. It wasn't your coin terms, but capacity reservation, take or pay contracts. If you aren't getting brighter listening to Jeff, this is, we've got to shake our head. This was fantastic. Thank you, Jeff. Please follow him on X at the Jeff Lutz. It's amazing information you won't get anywhere else. Thank you, Jeff. See you soon.
Thanks, Herbert.
Hey there, thank you for joining me. If you can, please consider supporting this channel so I can keep it going. It's a lot of work arranging all these amazing interviews. One of the easiest ways is just to click that join button and become a member of the channel. Thank you very much, and let's get brighter.